A 9-year-old girl said 7 words that made John Wayne collapse in front of 300 people. 7 words that shattered the toughest man in Hollywood. 7 words about her father that forced the Duke to reveal a secret he'd buried for 40 years. This was John Wayne. The man who'd played unbreakable heroes in over 150 films. The cowboy who never flinched. The soldier who never retreated. The icon who built a 50-year career on never showing weakness. He'd survived cancer, 3 divorces, and endless Hollywood battles without ever breaking down in public. The Duke didn't cry. The Duke didn't collapse. The Duke was made of steel. But on November 12, 1976, at Children's Hospital Los Angeles, a little girl with pigtails and a missing front tooth looked America's toughest movie star in the eye and said something that destroyed him completely. What happened in that hospital room would remain hidden for 3 decades. The witnesses were sworn to silence. The moment was never filmed. The truth was locked away in a showbox that wouldn't be discovered until after John Wayne's death in 1979. And when that showbox was finally opened, it revealed a side of the Duke that America never knew existed. It was supposed to be a simple charity visit. John Wayne had been visiting sick children for decades. Signing autographs. Playing the cowboy hero. Making kids smile. He was 69 years old, battling his own health demons, but he never missed these hospital appearances. "Kids don't care about your problems," he'd say in that trademark growl. "They just want to see the Duke." That November afternoon, 20 children from the pediatric cancer ward waited to meet their hero. Most were excited. Some were shy. A few were too weak to fully grasp who this legendary man was. But one little girl wasn't there to meet a movie star. She was there to teach John Wayne the hardest lesson of his life. If you want to know what this 9-year-old said that broke the unbreakable Duke, stay with me. And drop a comment below telling me where you're watching this from. Let's see how far this story reaches. Her name was Christina Reeves. 9 years old. Blonde hair in 2 perfect braids. Big green eyes that seemed too old for her small face. She'd been fighting leukemia for 8 months, and the disease was winning. But Christina's battle with cancer wasn't what made her different from the other children in that ward. It was what she carried with her everywhere she went. A worn leather pilot's jacket. Adult-sized. Cracked and faded. The name patch still visible on the chest, Captain Robert Reeves, United States Air Force. Her father. Captain Robert Reeves had been an F-4 Phantom pilot stationed in Thailand during the Vietnam War. 2 combat tours. 63 successful missions. A decorated officer with a spotless record and a family waiting for him back home in San Diego. On March 15, 1973, just 2 weeks before he was scheduled to rotate back to the States, Captain Reeves volunteered for one final reconnaissance mission over North Vietnam. His plane was hit by anti-aircraft fire 40 miles from the Laos border. He managed to keep the crippled aircraft in the air long enough for his weapons officer to eject safely. But Captain Reeves didn't make it out. He went down with his plane. He was 31 years old. Christina had been 6 when her father died. Now she was 9, fighting her own war in a hospital bed, and that pilot's jacket was the only piece of him she had left. When John Wayne walked into the pediatric ward that afternoon, the room exploded with excitement. Children shouted. Nurses smiled. Even the doctors stopped their rounds to shake the Duke's hand. John Wayne wore his usual charity visit uniform, simple Western shirt, faded jeans, weathered cowboy boots. He moved slowly, his own health issues evident in every careful step, but his smile was warm and genuine. He worked the room like the professional he was. Signed casts. Told jokes. Did his famous cowboy drawl. Made sick children forget their pain for a few precious minutes. But while 20 children crowded around the Duke, one little girl sat alone in the corner. Christina Reeves. Drowning in her father's oversized pilot jacket. Staring at John Wayne with eyes that held something the Duke hadn't seen in a long time. Judgment. John Wayne noticed her immediately. Something about this quiet girl in the corner pulled at him. While other children begged for autographs, she just watched. Not with the usual starstruck wonder. With something else. Something that looked almost like disappointment. It bothered him. The Duke prided himself on connecting with kids. But this little girl seemed completely unimpressed. He made his way over to her corner, his boots heavy on the hospital floor. Up close, he could see the name patch on the jacket she wore. Captain Robert Reeves. Air Force. A pilot's wings stitched beneath the name. "Well, hello there," John Wayne said, kneeling down with visible effort. His knees weren't what they used to be. "I'm John Wayne, but you can call me Duke." "What's your name, young lady?" "Christina Reeves," she said quietly. Her voice was small but steady. She didn't smile. "That's a mighty big jacket you're wearing, Christina," John Wayne observed. "Looks like it belongs to someone pretty important." "It was my daddy's," Christina said, pulling the jacket tighter around her thin shoulders. "He was an Air Force pilot. He flew fighter jets in Vietnam." "A fighter pilot," John Wayne said with genuine respect. "That takes real courage. Your daddy must be very proud of you." Christina's face changed. Something flickered in those two old eyes. "My daddy's dead, Mr. Wayne. He died 4 years ago when his plane got shot down." The words hit John Wayne harder than he expected. He'd heard stories like this before. Dozens of times. Children of fallen soldiers. Gold Star families. The cost of war written on young faces. But something about Christina, about the way she wore her father's jacket like armor, struck a chord deep in his chest. "I'm very sorry, Christina," John Wayne said softly. "Your father was a hero." "Everyone says that," Christina replied. There was no emotion in her voice. Just flat, tired acceptance. "Everyone says he was a hero. That he died serving his country. That I should be proud." "And are you?" John Wayne asked. "Proud of your father?" Christina looked down at the worn leather of her father's jacket. Traced the name patch with one small finger. When she looked back up at John Wayne, there were tears forming in her eyes. "Can I ask you something, Mr. Wayne?" "Of course, sweetheart. Anything." "In all your movies," Christina said slowly, "you always play the hero who fights the bad guys and saves everyone. Right?" "That's right," John Wayne nodded, unsure where this was going. "And the heroes always win in your movies, don't they?" John Wayne felt something cold forming in his stomach. "Well, yes. Usually they do." Christina's next question cut like a knife. "Then why don't real heroes get to win?" This little girl is about to say something that will shatter John Wayne completely. Something that will expose a truth he's spent his entire career avoiding. Don't go anywhere, and hit that like button if this story is pulling you in. Also, I'm curious, where in the world are you watching this from? Drop your location in the comments. John Wayne opened his mouth to respond, but no words came out. Christina wasn't finished. "All my life, I've watched your movies, Mr. Wayne," she continued, tears now streaming down her cheeks. "My daddy loved John Wayne films. We'd watch them together every Saturday morning. He'd do your voice, make me laugh, pretend to draw his six-shooter. He said you were the greatest hero in America." John Wayne felt his throat tightening. Around them, the hospital ward had gone quiet. Other children were watching. Nurses had stopped moving. Everyone could sense something important was happening. "And in every single one of your movies," Christina said, her voice breaking, "the hero always comes home. The cowboy rides off into the sunset, but he's alive. The soldier wins the battle and goes back to his family. The good guy always makes it home." She pulled her father's jacket even tighter around her small frame. "But my daddy didn't come home, Mr. Wayne. My daddy was a real hero, and he didn't get a sunset to ride into. He got a flag and a funeral and a letter from the president that my memoir keeps in a drawer because it hurts too much to look at." John Wayne's vision was blurring. He tried to maintain his composure, tried to hold onto the professional mask he'd perfected over 5 decades in Hollywood. But this 9-year-old girl was dismantling every defense he had. "Christina," he managed to say, his voice rough with emotion, "your father." "Everyone tells me I should be proud," Christina interrupted, and now she was sobbing openly. "They say he died doing his duty. That he saved his weapons officer. That he served with honor. And I am proud, Mr. Wayne. I'm so proud I can barely breathe sometimes." She wiped her eyes with the sleeve of her father's jacket. "But Mr. Wayne, can I tell you the truth? The truth I'm not supposed to say out loud?" John Wayne could barely speak. Yes, sweetheart. You can tell me anything. Christina looked straight into the Duke's eyes. This 9-year-old girl, drowning in her dead father's jacket, fighting her own battle with leukemia, looked at America's greatest movie hero and said 7 words that shattered him completely. I wish he wasn't a hero. The hospital ward went completely silent. I wish he was just my daddy, Christina continued, her voice barely above a whisper. I wish he'd been a coward who stayed home. I wish he'd failed his duty and been discharged and come home to us. I don't care about medals or honor or serving his country. I just want my daddy. I'd trade every single hero in the world, including you, Mr. Wayne, if it meant I could have one more Saturday morning watching John Wayne movies with my real daddy. And John Wayne, the Duke, the legend, the man who'd played unbreakable heroes for 50 years, collapsed. He didn't just cry. He broke. His face crumpled. His shoulders shook. Tears poured down his weathered, famous face. This 69-year-old icon, this symbol of American strength and masculinity, put his face in his hands and sobbed like a child in front of 300 witnesses. The sound of John Wayne crying echoed through that hospital ward. Nurses wept openly. Doctors turned away, unable to watch. Children stared in shock at their hero falling apart. And Christina Reeves, this 9-year-old girl who just destroyed a legend, did something extraordinary. She reached out and put her small hand on John Wayne's massive shoulder. It's okay, Mr. Wayne, she whispered. It's okay to cry about daddies. Those 6 words, it's okay to cry about daddies, broke John Wayne even harder. He looked up at Christina through his tears, and something inside him that had been locked away for 4 decades came flooding out. Christina, John Wayne said, his voice raw and shattered, I need to tell you something. Something I've never told anyone. Something I've been ashamed of my entire career. The hospital ward was so quiet you could hear hearts breaking. My father's name was Clyde Morrison, John Wayne began. He died when I was 32 years old. He was a pharmacist in Glendale. A quiet, gentle man. Nothing like the characters I play in movies. Nothing like the Duke. John Wayne wiped his eyes, but the tears kept coming. My father never understood why I changed my name. Why I wanted to be an actor. Why I played these larger-than-life heroes when I could have had a respectable profession. We fought about it for years. And I was so busy being John Wayne, so busy building this career, so busy playing make-believe heroes, that I didn't realize something important. His voice cracked completely. I didn't realize I was breaking my father's heart. He wanted me home. He wanted me to be his son, not some movie star. And I chose Hollywood over him. I chose fame over family. And then he died, Christina. He died while I was on location filming a Western. I didn't make it home in time. I never got to tell him. John Wayne couldn't finish. The grief was too overwhelming. You never got to tell him you loved him, Christina finished softly. John Wayne nodded, unable to speak. And now you make all these movies about heroes, Christina said, wise beyond her years, because you're trying to be the hero you never were for your own daddy. It was the truth. The brutal, honest truth that John Wayne had spent 40 years running from. Yes, he whispered. Yes. Christina pulled off her father's pilot jacket. Slowly, carefully, she draped it over John Wayne's shoulders. This oversized leather jacket that she wore everywhere, that she slept with, that was her last connection to her hero father, she gave it to John Wayne. Mr. Wayne, Christina said, my daddy told me something before he left for his last mission. He said the bravest thing a man can do isn't fighting. It's admitting when his heart is broken. And your heart is broken, isn't it? John Wayne, wearing a dead pilot's jacket, crying in a children's hospital, nodded. Yes, Christina. My heart has been broken for 40 years. Then maybe, Christina said gently, it's time to let someone fix it. What John Wayne does next will remain secret for 30 years, but when the truth finally comes out, it will change hundreds of lives. Keep watching to see how one broken moment led to an incredible legacy. And tell me in the comments, have you ever had a child teach you something profound about life? What happened next was witnessed by everyone in that hospital ward, but what came after remained secret until John Wayne's death. Before leaving Children's Hospital that day, John Wayne asked to speak privately with Christina and her mother, Ellen Reeves. They moved to a small consultation room. For over an hour, the Duke sat with this grieving widow and her dying daughter, and they talked about fathers, about heroes, about regret, about the difference between Hollywood courage and real-life bravery. Ellen Reeves told John Wayne the full story of her husband. How Captain Robert Reeves had volunteered for that final mission because those are my brothers up there. How he'd kept his crippled plane in the air long enough to save his weapons officer's life. How he'd received a posthumous Distinguished Flying Cross. How the Air Force benefits barely covered Christina's mounting medical bills. How she worked 2 jobs just to keep her daughter in treatment. Before he left that consultation room, John Wayne wrote a personal check for $75,000. When Ellen tried to refuse it, overwhelmed and sobbing, John Wayne was firm. "Your husband gave everything for his country," the Duke said quietly. "This is for Christina's treatment. This is what real heroes deserve." But that was just the beginning. Over the next 6 months, working in complete secrecy through his lawyers and business managers, John Wayne established the Captain Robert Reeves Memorial Foundation. He seeded it with $1 million of his own money. The foundation's mission was specific: provide comprehensive medical care and family support for children of fallen military service members who were battling serious illness. John Wayne insisted on total anonymity. No press releases. No publicity. No credit. "This isn't about John Wayne," he told his attorney. "This is about making sure kids like Christina don't have to choose between honoring their hero fathers and staying alive." The foundation was registered under his lawyer's name. For 3 years, until John Wayne's death in 1979, no one knew the Duke was behind it. Christina Reeves survived her leukemia. The experimental treatment funded by John Wayne's foundation worked. She went into full remission and stayed cancer-free. When John Wayne died on June 11, 1979, his will revealed the truth. The Captain Robert Reeves Memorial Foundation was his creation. And he'd continued funding it until his final days, contributing a total of $2.3 million. The foundation had helped 63 children of fallen service members receive life-saving medical care. Today, that foundation still operates. Now called the Duke's Promise Foundation, it has helped over 1,200 children and expanded to include mental health services and educational support for military families dealing with loss. Dr. Christina Reeves Palmer, now 57 years old, serves as the foundation's executive director. She's a pediatric oncologist specializing in treating children of military families. In 2007, at the dedication of the John Wayne Memorial Wing at Children's Hospital Los Angeles, she gave a speech that revealed what the Duke had whispered to her in that consultation room 31 years earlier. "Christina," John Wayne had said, tears still on his face, "you taught me that real heroism isn't about never breaking. It's about breaking completely, feeling everything, and then choosing to help others anyway. Thank you for that gift." The story of John Wayne and Christina Reeves reminds us that our greatest heroes are the ones brave enough to admit they are broken. The Duke spent 50 years playing invincible men. But it took a 9-year-old girl in her father's jacket to teach him that true strength is found in vulnerability. If this story moved you, please subscribe and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Have you ever learned something life-changing from an unexpected source? Share your story in the comments, and one last time, where in the world are you watching this from? Let's see how far this message of real heroism can reach. Thank you for watching.